Well, hello. It's 12 o'clock on a Monday, and we are here with the Dr. Tech Show. So, hello to everybody out there in internet and YouTube land. Good to see you all again today. Where I'm coming to you here from Huddersfield, where it's been a sort of bit of a showery, rainy morning, but little bit of sunshine breaking through, and it doesn't really feel like July. It feels more like September, October, but yeah, we might well get some good weather coming up. I'm not sure. But anyway, so with me as usual are Pauline and Swain. So hi, Pauline. How is it in Birmingham?
Hi, John. It's nice in Birmingham. And for people who are listening on Tuesday evening in South Birmingham on Hope Radio, I hope the weather has lasted. We're predicted good weather this week, so fingers crossed.
Good. And Swain, what's it like in Orkney?
Oh, it's fine in Orkney, although it is raining. Warm and not very windy, but otherwise great.
Fine for Orkney.
Fine for Orkney. Nicely.
That's your definition of it being fine. Okay, so here again, the Dr. Tech Show. We don't have any guests lined up today. So if you'd like to join in the show, then you can either call one of the numbers on my screen and can I get it right? Is it that way? Yes, it is that way. Or you can email drtechshow@gmail.com. And we'd love to have you on board if you've got something to say about the world of communicating while you're isolated from your friends, family and work colleagues. But we've got some plenty of things we want to discuss, and we'll kick off as we often do with Pauline and the research you've been doing into the wonderful days and that we've got coming up.
Sure. Well, we haven't got anything for today itself, but the coming forward in the next couple of days on the 24th is Samaritans Awareness Day, and I think especially for people during lockdown, Samaritans, I'm sure, as always, will have been helpful to people around the country, and it's good to know that they're still out there providing services to people who are feeling isolated or lonely or sad, and they're always there on the end of the phone. And then we go on to National Preserving Week, which, if you're into growing our own food, as more of us seem to be doing during lockdown as well, it's a chance to go to events or listen to events designed to get people preserving their own food and encouraging those that have the skills to take some time to help those who don't. And then the third thing I found out in my research was that from the 25th of July to the 9th of August is National Marine Week. And this is a chance to celebrate the wonderful wildlife found in the seas around the UK and our relationship with this incredible habitat that surrounds us. And wildlife trusts around the UK will be holding sea-themed events from snorkeling through the sea waters of Wembury Bay in Devon to exploring the rock pools of Yorkshire's Bogle Hole on a seashore safari, or even picnicking with the porpoise on the cliff tops of North Wales. At least in lockdown, or the way things are now, we can still encourage people to go out and enjoy the fresh air, say, as long as they're socially distancing, of course. So hopefully people get some enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm not sure about picnic on a cliff top with a porpoise. That sounds to me like they are mammals, aren't they? So I suppose it would survive. But
I think it's watching the porpoises is what they mean. But yeah, it all sounds very hopeful and light, and sort of the kind of thing, encouragement we need, especially at this stage in the COVID-19 situation.
Yeah, and of course, Wayne, you're a lot closer to the sea than we are, and you're surrounded by it. So
well, yes, we've got plenty of sea, and we get, I would say, at least a couple of sightings of cetaceans of one sort or another, whether it's whales, dolphins, porpoises, or whatever. There's a Facebook alert group that if you are free, you can race off and try and see them.
And have you ever done that, Swain?
I have, yes. When there's been minke whales out off one of the islands, I went and had a quick look.
Mm.
Excellent. I was on holiday in the north of Scotland a few years ago now. Managed just to miss the puffins. I think we were like there the week after the puffins had all disappeared, so missed out on that one.
In Ireland, off the west coast of Kerry, I think it is, there's a famous dolphin called Fungi the dolphin, and so he's a great attraction for the summer tourists to go out with a hope to see Fungi and the other friendly dolphins in the area.
So if you've got any stories to tell about National Marine Week and your encounter with marine life, then please let us know, particularly if you've got a technology angle to it. Anyway, so those are the things you can look up. The National Preserving Week sounds interesting. I suppose this is jam and pickles and things like this, I suppose.
I suppose it is. I mean, you can preserve nearly anything, can't you? And if for listeners to the Archers, I think they've been entertained some while back now, but in the last couple of months, with stories of is it kimchi and all those kind of Korean type foods that more people are being encouraged to have. They're not part of my diet. I don't know if either of you are part of that.
No.
No. Okay.
Main preserved food that I ever eat is rhubarb.
Ah,
Either in jam or from the freezer in a pie.
delicious. Yes, I discovered rhubarb and ginger jam a while ago, and that's absolutely gorgeous.
Well, I live fairly close to the Rhubarb Triangle, which is the country's centred around Wakefield, Pontefract and areas like that, where just the rhubarb growing capital of the country. And they grow it in dark sheds because it grows better in the dark, apparently. And it grows so quickly you can hear it growing. You can hear it squeaking as it grows.
Wow.
So
it's one of the things that does really well here in the north of Scotland. So everyone always has lots of rhubarb at rhubarb time. So it has to go in the freezer.
Great. I wonder if our friend Andy Mabbitt has a recording of rhubarb squeaking for Wikipedia. I bet he'd love that. If anybody has that.
Wow, yes.
Great.
Recording
Yeah.
for the audio of the Wikipedia for rhubarb.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
I've certainly heard it on Radio 4.
Yes, I've heard that. Probably on Broadcasting House on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, so it definitely happens. Anyway, so if you've got any technology related stories around rhubarb to tell us, then please let us know. I think I can't remember if I mentioned this on the show before, but in the run up to the 2012 Olympics, I was involved in trying to put together a project which never actually got funded, which would have there was a funding call out for projects that would use technology to create competitions online, and we did this project which was about trying to turn the sort of produce shows into online competitions. So you would enter the things from your local produce show into an online competition, and they would get judged nationally, and we would try to find the best vegetable and these kind of things nationally.
That's a great idea.
I think it's a brilliant idea, and I still want to get it funded one day. But so it seems there are technology angles to these kind of things.
There must be lots of produce shows this year taking part virtually or not taking part at all. So
yes,
it's good you to look into it. Right?
You've reminded me, John, of open gardens. I'm sure this happens nationally, but certainly locally. We have very, very active open gardens, group that does a lot of that sort of thing. And of course, with lockdown, they haven't been able to do that. So I've just remembered that I saw a sign in Moseley Village on the weekend where the open gardens usually happen at the end of July, and they're going online. So on Saturday 27th, they're got a playlist of open gardens on the Moseley and Bloom YouTube channel, and I'll put that on Twitter later. But they have 32 videos, so people can't visit the gardens in person, obviously, but they can see video footage. That's really good, and it kind of follows on from my support to the Sandwell Networkers group for doing their event online. So it shows that people are using Facebook and the channels that we know to help make things stay alive while they can't see them in person.
Yeah, I mean, I did. So when I did the Twicket project in 2011, which was going to Ray in the barn area to broadcast a live village cricket match. As a result of that, I got some funding to do a project called Celebration 2.0, in which I went around the country attending traditional village events and things like that, and filming them and videoing them and live streaming them and that kind of stuff. So the whole idea was to try to bring a technological aspect to these kind of traditional pastimes, and I'd love to be able to do more and more of that kind of thing. And I think, during lockdown, as you say, people can't do these kind of things. So I think there has to be demand for for them to go online. So yeah, so if you're doing that kind of thing, then please let us know. Please get involved. Email drtechshow@gmail.com, or you can leave us a comment on the YouTube chat box, or call one of those numbers. No, I got it wrong this time. Up the top of the screen, on that side. But anyway, yeah. So plenty going on in the technology field this week, and we've found some projects we want to highlight and we want to discuss. So I'm just going to try and call something up on my screen. I've got loads of tabs open on my browser. Whoops, and I've got a video open. I didn't want to start playing. Go away. I've got lots of tabs open on my screen that I'm going to try and find the right project to share with you. And so, where are we here? Yeah, so this project is Cassiltoun Housing Association, which has been funded by the Scottish Government's Supporting Communities Fund. And it's to fund a digital inclusion project, which will see it giving over 100 devices and data packages, as well as training digital champions. The device and data packages will be going to the tenants of the housing associations. They've been doing things like showing their tenants how to use Zoom from a 2-meter distance, which is really good. I'd love to hear, some real life shows. And if you could video them doing video themselves doing this kind of thing, we'd love to see this and to feature it on the show. Because, I think one of the things that people are crying out for at the moment is techniques for supporting people with digital. This is why we started this show. It's about how do you support people with digital technology at a time when you can't really spend any time being close up with them. Because so obviously Cassiltoun have been doing some of that with their digital champions and their tenants, and they've been helping people participate in arts workshops, all sorts of things really, and it's really good to see, I think, a project like this helping over 100 of their tenants, and as well, not just the devices but also the connectivity to make sure they can get online as well.
Yeah, I think as we've kind of been finding out, and as we've known for a long time, you and I, John and Swain, it's fine having the technology, but it's having the patience and the building the relationships with people to enable them to use digital more. It's still kind of sometimes a bit scary for people to get online and to use the technology that some of us take for granted. And so I think a lot of time invested in building relationships with people to then encourage them to use technology is time well spent. And I'm finding that with the projects that I'm engaged in. Sometimes half an hour on a phone call, building a relationship with somebody, or helping them to talk about whatever's going on for them, helps a lot towards them then feeling relaxed enough and confident enough in you as a person to help them, use some kind of device or software that they haven't been able to get their heads around yet.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and I think that's it's one of the problems that I found in the digital inclusion field, is that a lot of funding in the past has been predicated on getting large numbers of people through very short interventions, and that just means that they learn to do something very quickly, and it doesn't stick with them, and it doesn't become important to them. It doesn't become something that they want to make part of their lives and to continue exploring and doing. And in many respects, in many instances, I've found it actually puts people off. It's something that, okay, yeah, well, I did that, didn't like it, and I'm not going to do it again. And so for me, I think what a lot of people are still, even after all these years of doing these things, a lot of people are still not taking on board the fact that digital inclusion is something which has to be tackled in the same way as things like community development and skills development and all these other kind of things. It's a long-term, slow and patient process in which you have to stick with people. You can't just expect them to, there obviously are people who have suddenly the light bulb has gone off, and particularly at the moment when they've had to do it during these difficult times, a light bulb has gone off in their head and they think, yeah, okay, I'm going to jump in and do this now. But for every one person like that, there'll be 20 who still need that patient approach.
Yeah, and I think in this article, for example, it talks about using the tablet, using the device for an art class. So it's the purpose. If you just say to somebody, be digital, they don't see, you know, what's the point in that? There's no end, there's no intent, no incentive for them to do it. But if you say to them, you can take part in your art class, you can read your magazine, you can explore worlds, you know, beyond you. I saw in the last week, I'm sure you guys have seen it as well, window on the world, people give a chance to look out the window from somebody else's window, you know, a piece of software. That's more appealing. That's what people want to do with their lives, not just use you know, a piece of technology.
Exactly. And I think, you know, obviously Cassiltoun Housing Association has got it right, the way they're working with people. And if anybody involved in that project wants to come on and talk to us about it, we would love. What we really want to do is we want to get in you know, we want to get behind the scenes of these projects and work out exactly how people do it. So if anybody involved at Cassiltoun Housing Association, or if any of the tenants involved want to come on the show, then we'd really love to have you on board and hear from you. So, you know, I think that's a really good project, a good example of the kind of approach I think that we're advocating. So that's one project that we've got to talk about. And so the other thing I came across in the last week was something called GrandPad, which we've talked on this show about different devices that we think will be good for people with low levels of digital skills to get them online and using technology for the first time. And I came across a device the other day. So we've talked about Facebook Portal, we've talked about Comp, we've talked about Cradles Connect. All of these things are really good for getting people online. We've also talked about the Amazon Echo last week, which is good because it's voice controlled. So last week I came across GrandPad, and that's a sort of tablet for, I think they built it as it's an American thing, so they build it as a tablet for seniors. And it's sort of a simplified, it's a normal kind of tablet, but it has a very simplified interface, which makes it a lot easier for older people, you know, who might have deteriorating eyesight, particularly might have problems with arthritic problems with their fingers or these kind of things. I think one of the things is, as you get older, your fingers, I think, get drier, and that makes it harder to use a touchscreen. So a whole number of reasons really why older people might struggle to use a tablet in the ways that younger people do. But GrandPad is it's a device which comes from America, and it has been particularly adapted for older people. And it comes with 4G built in, so it will connect to the internet out of the box, which is
very important, because that's a very big barrier sometimes to getting things connected up properly.
Yeah, it certainly is. But again, it's another one of these devices that's not cheap, unfortunately. No. And I'm just trying to find the I have to stop sharing that one. Yeah, so again, it's one of these devices which is particularly aimed at older people, and it has been, you know, to an extent at least, I think, designed in conjunction with older people. So there's a certain amount of co-production going on there.
It's billed as a low vision aid and phone for the blind, so it is billed for somebody with poor, you know, less than perfect sight as well, which might be useful.
Yeah.
And it says it includes unlimited 4G internet, music streaming, and 24/7 personalized support, which might be very helpful for somebody who is new to technology and a bit uncertain of what they're doing. But the price would be a bit of a turn off, John. Have you do you see what the price is?
Yeah, it's $399.95, and that's without VAT.
Yeah.
If you add VAT to that, it comes out at $479.94.
Yeah.
So it's certainly not cheap, but
no.
You know, I think.
Is that including all the data though for a period of time?
It says unlimited 4G internet
yeah.
on this where we've seen it for sale. So I don't know whether that's just from this provider or from all providers? It seems would have to be worked out.
Yeah,
No need for Wi-Fi.
Yeah, unlimited 4G internet. So yeah, that's so in many cases, that's not a bad thing.
So if that includes the data for a year or so, then that brings the apparent cost down a bit.
And for because connection is so important, anyway, and certainly now especially, then there'll be a lot of incentives, I think, for families maybe to invest in it for an older person in their family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested if there's particularly anybody in the UK who's used one of these, because I'd not come across them before, and I came across them through the American website, and there's lots of stuff on their website and then about how people in the United States have used these things, but they are available for sale in the UK. So I'd love to hear from someone who's actually used it. The thing is, so the person, the older person has the GrandPad device, but you can call it and do the video calls from your phone using a dedicated app on your phone. So it's it's really good in that respect, and you don't have to have the devices at both ends.
If you scroll down on that page, John, it says how super simple design, first tablet for elderly users, designed and built from scratch. Hours spent with seniors, understanding the frustrations of using modern technology. So I think they have done a lot of user research to make it.
It looks very well designed.
Including intuitive charging cradle, and this is something I find with some of my users, that they haven't, they don't charge their devices for long enough or often enough. My mother will not leave her iPad charging any device actually charging overnight. Just doesn't want to. So this is charging all the time when it's in the cradle. So that sounds like very useful.
And you can try it. It says on the website, you can try it 100% risk-free with a 30-day guarantee. So you could order one and send it back after 30 days if you didn't like it. There's a chat box on this website. Maybe we should go into the chat box and ask them to come on the program.
I think we should. It looks like it could have a lot of positivity for people who are listening.
Yeah, exactly. So lots of good devices. So we're compiling a list of devices, really, aren't we, that we think could be good. I mean, I suppose at the end of the day, it would be good if it was just the one that was the sort of killer device that did everything. But there are lots of them really out there.
And the no need for Wi-Fi is a certain feature that would be extremely appealing to lots of people, if not, I would think. And according to the blurb, it can be used out and about as well as at home. So I'm getting more and more fond of this device.
Okay, so if anybody wants to send us one, and we'd love to. But if anybody else send us 3, we'd love to. Be able
What if we could do the show via that?
Not sure if Zoom will work on it, but
no,
you never
sure
know. So the thing is, I mean, one of the things that occurs to me, and I think there have been attempts to do this in the past, is that it looks like a fairly standard tablet, doesn't it? And it strikes me that is you could, if you could develop that interface and put it on a standard tablet that was relatively cheap. Well, I'm not trying to undermine their customer base, but there ought to be a way of putting that interface on a cheaper tablet. But I suppose all the things that go with it, like the free 4G and the unlimited support, all these things add up to cost, don't they? So I suppose at the end of the day, it is probably fairly reasonably priced.
There is an app that family members can use on their own devices. So
and they do offer a monthly payment, if you want to pay over a period. So that could be good as well.
Well, yeah, I suppose so if it's for say £400 a month, what's that? Sorry, £400 does it say what the monthly payment is?
£31.95.
Okay, so that's not bad, is it?
That's with their VAT relief, but we're assuming that people who need them would
get their VAT relief.
Would be eligible for VAT relief.
Yep. Okay. Well, certainly a device worth considering. And as I say, if anybody wants to send us one, we'd happily have a look at it. So that's GrandPad. Really, another looks like a really excellent device doing these kind of things.
Mm.
Right. So another thing that we'd found out is came across a device, a guide on how to set up the. I think last week we talked about the Echo Dot and the Echo Show being possibly good devices for being able to use them as voice-activated video conferencing. So that could be an opportunity. So one of the things I came across on
about your business,
sorry,
you need to build systems.
I came across the other day on YouTube was a guide to setting up the Amazon Echo Show for video calling for your older relatives. So just trying to bring this up. I'm obviously not going to play this whole video, but there is a guide on.
And you have to find a great tool like money.com to do it.
There's this.
It's what you've been up to today.
Excellent guide on YouTube.
Now, there's probably never been a more important time to stay in touch with those loved ones around you. And in this video, I'm going to show you how with just one Amazon these 3 devices will be perfectly fine for what we're talking about today. And I'll leave the latest links because many of these are discounted currently in the description.
So it's really good because it shows you how you as a relative or a friend could help to set up a device like this for hands-free video calling for somebody who's got the low level of skills and who can you can sort of set them up for remote video calling. And the obviously good thing about it being Alexa powered is that the person who's using the device could just tell it to call somebody and call them up in a video call, or alternatively, if they're receiving the call, they could just tell it to answer, and they don't have to go through all that process of fiddling around with the screen.
So run me through that again, John. What would be the procedure?
Well, the procedure, you'd have to watch the video, which is 6 minutes long. So, basically, so the Amazon Echo Show is like an Amazon Echo device, but has a screen. So, and one of the things it will do, so any Amazon Echo device will, if you link it to your phone, it will allow you to make phone calls via the device. So with an Echo Show, you can actually do video calls. So what you have to do is you have to have a phone to link it to. So what the video shows you, I probably ought to just show the video, but I'm not quite sure what the they might want to take this down if I show somebody else's video in our, our show. Yeah. But so what you have to do is, so if you're a relative and you want your older person to use this, basically, first of all, they have to have a either the other person has to have a phone with an Amazon account on it, or what you can do is if you can like sign out of your own Amazon account and then sign into another one for them, and to set it up. So it has to be set up, and then you do all that on your phone through the Amazon app. You set it up and you link it to the contacts on the phone, etc. And then and if you're doing that for somebody else, you then sign out of that account and sign back into your own account. But basically what it does is once you've gone through all that process, anybody who's in your phone contacts, you can then tell the device to call. Because it's a video enabled device, it will video call them. So, so
that sounds really good.
Yeah.
So what can, so if you only have the ordinary Amazon Echo, can you still make calls? You just can't do video calls.
Yeah, you can still make voice calls.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And so, and I think that, again, I think we've talked about this in the past before. I mean, so something like the Echo Dot, if you go on something like eBay, I don't know how much they are these days. I mean, I bought an Echo Dot, which is like the little, you can see it there. I don't know if you can see my mouse pointer of that video there.
Yeah.
The Echo Dot is like this little round device, which the speaker's a bit tinny on it, but I've got a couple of those. One of which I bought in a second-hand shop in Cornwall when I was working in there for 13 quid. You can get them for about 20 to 25 on eBay, the older versions, because they keep updating the versions, but the older versions still work fine. And if you wanted to, I think you could set up those all around a person's house so that they would have one in every room, and therefore you would be available, you would be able to call them. And there are two ways you can do that. So either you can set it up to make and receive actual phone calls, or now I've got an idea this might only work if you're on the same Wi-Fi network, but one thing the Echo does on the app on your phone, it has something called drop-in. And if you press a button on the app on your phone, it will just override anything that's playing on that device and allow you to make a voice, like I think they call it like an announcement. And what they bill it for is it's like so you can announce to your family that dinner's ready or something like that. But you know, if you've got a person who who you're concerned about in any way, something like that, it makes it really good to be able to just call them, and if they've got one in every room, you know. Because like you say, I think particularly with older people, they don't necessarily always charge their devices. They don't necessarily always have them with them. You know, I think a lot of people don't see it as a standard thing just to always carry their phone with them. They might put it down somewhere and walk around the house without it. And to have that ability to call them using the device is, I think, a really good option. So, you know, there are lots of these kind of devices. The problem is the functionality is different on all of them. It would be great if we could do all of these things on all of these devices, really. But you know, so the Echo Show, the Echo Spot, the ones that have got screens, the fact that you can actually video call people, I think again makes quite a big difference. So again, there's an option for people who you know, for people who don't necessarily have the digital skills to do video calling. I'm gradually closing all my tabs down so I can so I can only have the ones open that I need to talk to you about. Right, okay, so another thing that we've discovered this week is Zoom have produced a new physical device. Now, I'm not quite sure whether this has any repercussions for digital inclusion, but it has been billed as a challenger to the Facebook portal, which we've talked about on this show before. So Zoom have produced this thing called Zoom for Home. I think there's a lot of skepticism about it. So it's so you can see if you look at the picture on my screen there, it's the bigger device next to the laptop. And it's called Zoom for Home. It's 27-inch screen, and it's got 8 microphones and 3 cameras on it. But actually, I think most of the publicists I've read about it, apart from the actual Zoom press release, basically says why. Why on earth would you want this? Because actually, most of what you need to do on it, you actually need to link it to a laptop. You know, you can use it as a standalone device, but if you want to screen share and you know, do stuff with the stuff that's on your screen, it has to be linked to a laptop. So you know, which makes it really pointless. I mean, you can buy a second screen for your laptop for much cheaper than, I think they're about $500 or $600, which will probably.
What do you think, Swain?
I'm not convinced at all. I think it's a kind of, it's almost a gizmo looking for an application, really, isn't it? And it half does what several other devices properly do, but isn't really very useful. I think that's my summary.
It feels like one of those, you know, the way Google used to let people have their kind of side projects. It feels like somebody's side project, and Zoom just said it's just pushing everything else out the door. So they pushed that out, without really thinking much more about it.
Well, the thing about Zoom is they must be really flush with cash at the moment because of their massive uptake during the COVID crisis, and so I think they probably can just throw money at projects. And I think if you look at it, I mean, things like the Facebook portal, again, nobody really predicted a need for that kind of thing, but it appeared and people did things with it. So I think this is part of that process, really, is that, well, if you put this out there, somebody might find a use for it. At the moment, I don't really see a use for it, but you know, you never know. It could be the next big thing, and I suppose that's what they're hoping. But at the moment, I mean, I did see, I think one of the press releases, I think I originally picked this up because I have a Google alert. And if people don't know, you can go on Google and google.com/alerts. You can set up a daily email that will tell you if anything new on the internet appears about that subject. So I have a Google alert set up for Facebook portal so that we can talk about it on this show. And the Zoom for Home came up in one of those emails because it said this is a game changer. This could be a competitor for Facebook portal. And that particular site, which I think was a site which is mainly about business stocks and shares and stuff like that, actually described the Facebook portal as a failure. Now, I still don't know. Is Facebook portal a failure? We've obviously talked about some really good case uses on it on this program. I think it was suggesting it was a failure in terms of revenue earning for Facebook, that it wasn't making very much money. Again, would a device like that make a lot of money for Zoom? Well, who's going to pay $600? It might be £500, probably £600 in this country for something like that.
I think they're missing a word here. I think it's Zoom for home office. It's for people working from home, but not for domestic purposes, I think. Yeah.
And it does go to that thing that part of this is very much aimed at people doing one-to-one on Zoom, and I've always said I don't understand why you use Zoom for one-to-ones. I mean, there are lots of other things that are more designed for using for one-to-one.
Yeah, and you've said that like very early on.
Yeah, but again, here we are slagging off Zoom while using Zoom. I don't know. What do you think, Sir? You're skeptical on this one, Swain.
The core Zoom conferencing, video calling technology is very, very good, but I don't think this is really a significant benefit to add to it.
No. I suppose the Facebook portal allows somebody with very few digital skills to talk to people if they don't own a computer or a smartphone. I would have thought the vast majority of people who are using Zoom own a computer or a smartphone and don't have 600 quid to spare to throw on something like this. Because if you did, you'd probably buy a smartphone or a tablet.
You buy a hub and two monitors, so you'd have 3 monitors.
Yeah.
Or something.
Exactly. But, there will be people linking back to this show and saying, ha, 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 in a year's time. When
they were all there. How wrong they were.
Anyway, so I will be so in the recorded version of this show, in the description, I will be annotating everything we've talked about, including this, so that in the future people can link to it and say, look at these people, look at these idiots. They didn't know that the biggest, so Christmas 2020, the biggest selling item.
The iPhone of the 2020s.
Exactly.
They missed it.
Yeah, but we'd all be very, very rich if we could predict these things, wouldn't we? When I'm doing my radio appearances talking about tech, the people are always saying to me, what's the next big thing? And I said, well, my response to that was always, I wouldn't be sitting here if I knew what the next big thing was. So, okay. So anyway, so for our points of view, the jury is out on the Zoom for Home. But sure. If you've got a different opinion, then you can be involved in the show by emailing drtechshow@gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you. If there's anybody out there who knows what these kind of things could ever be used for. So anyway, so our next thing that we've spotted in the last week is the wonderful people at 100% Digital Leeds have been doing some comprehensive work with care homes in Leeds, and they've been getting tablets into care homes. They've been training the staff in care homes as digital champions, and they've been training up the staff and the residents so that they can communicate with their relatives using these tablets. And absolutely brilliant. I think it's I would love to see more organizations and local authorities and whoever else doing these kind of things. It's just this project warms my heart. And I've been in touch with Rachel Ben, who runs 100% Digital Leeds, and she said she'll come on a future show to talk about it.
That's
so I think it's really is good. And a good thing for me is that's the whole section in this blog post called Fun and Laughter. And the great thing for me is that they are focusing on making sure people get enjoyment out of these things. And that's really, that's really where we should be coming from, from my point of view. And it's absolutely fabulous. And they're encouraging them to do things like celebrate the great get together in memory of Joe Cox. It's not just about one-to-one communications, it's about participating in external events as well.
They've definitely got the idea right, and they're doing it really well by the look of it.
Yeah, definitely.
They've also been using Alexa to a widening participation dementia pathfinder, so helping carers and people living with dementia, and people talk to Alexa, and Alexa responds well. So it's good to see that being used well as well. And if you look at the very bottom of this article, John, somebody's using a VR headset. So I think there could be great developments there that we could get more speakers on to hear about, because I've used one of them, and it takes a while to get used to, but it's amazing the things you can do. And we obviously want to encourage people at every level, and if people want to get onto virtual reality headsets, then I think we'd encourage that as well.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot I was showing my screen then, because you reminded me of something else I wanted to talk about, which we've not got in our running order for our show, but something else. I've discovered something else the other day, which we'll talk. If we get time, we will talk about later on. Yeah, I mean, I think the VR, the virtual reality thing, is absolutely fabulous. I mean, I've seen lots of examples now where people have used virtual reality to with people who are suffering from chronic pain. It's a good distraction from chronic pain, all those kind of things. There's a brilliant YouTube channel called I think it's called Seniors React To, and it's all about how showing various different kinds of technology to older people. And there's a brilliant one on virtual reality where they're all really heavily into it, and basically being scared and shocked and these kind of things by the things that they see.
Yeah.
So
just to go back to digital inclusion leads, the other great thing about this article is that they offer downloads of helpful tips and stuff. So they've got a list of age-friendly apps, everything from games, jigsaws, quizzes, brain teasers, reading, music and entertainment. And I think that's great to encourage people to investigate further, which is what I always love about technology. They've got an Alexa skills thing, and then further up is the age-friendly apps. Yeah, the Alexa skills is anyway, you'll see them on the article flicking up and down. That's their age-friendly apps. I think it's just if you click on the download button, John, and then the list comes up. That kind of thing is really, I always like to encourage people to investigate further, see what other worlds are out there, and these kind of things hopefully would entice people to just see what more they can get out of the technology that's available.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay. So I mean, all power to 100% Digital Leeds, and if you're listening, Rachel, then please come on and talk to us about it very soon. So right, so our next item we want to talk about, which I'll be looking to bring up on my screen, is we're going back to Glasgow. And hang on, I thought I had that. Yes, here we are. We're going back to Glasgow. So Glasgow doing some great stuff in the digital inclusion field. And so this one is I think it's called the Remade Glasgow Network. And they are providing 500 recycled computers to digitally excluded people in Glasgow. And the good thing about this is that they've got this consortium of community organisations together, which has been refurbishing all the IT kit. And the Scottish government have bought the first 500 machines from them to provide to homeless people and refugees, various categories of people. You know, and that actually provides them with a, you know, with a base to be going on with, that they've got a financial incentive to get going. And I think we need to see more of these kind of things. You know, I think that's a really, really good model, I think, of partnerships working together, and the Scottish government using its financial muscle to help the thing get off the ground.
Yeah, the partners in the Remade Network are Govan Hill Bats Community Trust, Repair Cafe, Glasgow 2 Library, and the Pram Project. And so it's also a good range of organizations who will all have users who are, you know, kind of on the ground, and they'll know what people need, the practical needs that people have, so they'll be able to use them straight away.
And it's another initiative that is making a more longer term impact on people's lives, because it's not just a question of turning up a couple of times to be shown things, but you're actually getting a device which you can then keep in touch with them about and get support from.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, so all power to Glasgow's elbow. Glasgow's doing some great stuff in the digital inclusion field, and you know, it's really fabulous to see that. So yeah, so well done, Glasgow. And we'll hope. So if anybody's involved in that project, then we'd love to hear from you. Please come on the show. So email drtechshow@gmail.com. We'd love to have you on there. And okay, so the next project we want to talk about is something that you discovered via Twitter, Pauline.
Yeah, it was a tweet from my friend David Skur, who's the partnership and project manager at Citizens Online and Digital Brighton and Hove, and the founder of Tech for Good Brighton. And he tweeted that, I mean, he's done brilliant things there with, he's been doing them for like forever, but more recently, obviously with COVID, some kind of things have been ramped up, and they're testing out new ways to get affordable Wi-Fi for vulnerable people in temporary housing. And they have, there's a press release from a company called Jangala, or Jangala maybe, which exists to enable internet access for people in need of urgent humanitarian aid or longer term development assistance. But they're looking at, you know, as I say, using it for vulnerable people in temporary housing. And they have deployed a new product called GetBox to bring Wi-Fi access to vulnerable individuals in the UK during the lockdown. So they're collaborating with Citizens Online, Just Life and Diverse and Ability, 3 organisations. And the initial pilot expects to see nearly 30 vulnerable people in emergency accommodation in Brighton with no internet access, provided with Wi-Fi through the specially developed connectivity device. So it's a box, it sounds like, that which can be mailed to a user, and the user just plugs it into mains electricity, and within 1 minute, the press release says they have access to a highly secure Wi-Fi network running over a 3G or 4G SIM card. And we don't have a price for that at the moment, but it sounds like, you know, this could be, they talk about game changers. It sounds to me like something that really could make a big difference to people who don't have Wi-Fi for whatever reason, but need to be connected.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really, really good.
I'm just seeing a price in some of the detail. For a GetBox, there's a one-off cost of £150 with ongoing costs at £7 to £15 a month for 4G data contract, which can be cancelled at any time without penalty. But I guess the organisations have bought and are funding that on behalf of their clients.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is in a single household. I think you plug in for this, but I think it has great potential, and I'll certainly be looking into to find out more about it. Maybe we can get David on to talk about it as well. Yeah,
that would be good if you come on a future show.
This 4G based connectivity, I think it's a very, it's an area I think we can be doing a lot more with, because you don't need any wires, you just need the device and the phone signal.
Yeah, and we've talked in the past about MiFi devices and those kind of things, and I had the the 5G device, which I took into hospital with me, which gave me 200 megabits a second. You know, and they claim up to a gigabit per second with those devices. But unfortunately, it was made by Hawaii. I don't know how to pronounce it. So maybe it will stop working now. I don't know.
Did you actually get that 200 megabits speed, John? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
was it, you know, did you notice the difference?
Did I notice the difference? Well, what I would say is I had all the time I was in hospital, I had trouble-free connectivity. Now, you know, if I'd have been using my 4G on my phone or the hospital Wi-Fi, I suspect I would have had some glitches. But I'd never had any single glitch at all. It was always untroubled. You know, and to an extent, that's what we're aiming for, isn't it? It's like so you don't notice the connectivity because it's there all the time.
Yeah, you know, so yeah, I mean, yesterday, for example, I was on a Zoom call with the family, and my Wi-Fi just kept dropping out. So I wonder sometimes what to blame in situations like that. I'm with BT. I don't know whether to blame the provider or the platform I was using, or you know, who do you tend to blame first, John?
Well, I think because I understand these things, I tend to know where, well, I tend to have an idea of where the issues are. But there are so many points in the system where it can go down, so it's difficult to know. You know, so we've talked on the show before. The one things I do for a living is I do live streaming of events, and you know, there are times. It doesn't happen so much these days, but certainly in the past, most of the comments you get are, "This is a rubbish stream," or you know, "This keeps going down," and I know I've got things that analyze the stream at my end, which means I know that the stream is going out of the room fine. And actually the problem is likely to be at the receiver's end, not at my end. But it still doesn't stop them complaining that what I'm doing is rubbish. You know, and what I then have to do is explain to the client who's paying me to do this that no, it's not my stream that's rubbish. And I have to find some way. I have to have some way of keeping the analytics at my end so I can show them that it wasn't me that was a problem. You know, the issue can be with your machine. It can be with the connectivity. It can be with the Wi-Fi in your building. It can be with the connection from your building to the internet. It can be, you know, rarely it can be something that goes down in the connectivity between that and the internet. But you know, and it can be the person at the other end. So you really don't know what's going on. I mean, you know, and it can be that the servers serving the app go down. So if you're on a Zoom call and it goes down, it could be Zoom that's got the problem. You know, you never really know.
Swain, you kind of probably call on often to diagnose these sort of things. What advice do you tend to give people to check first?
Check first that their Wi-Fi router is actually connected to the internet, that they're close enough to take advantage of Wi-Fi from their router, or are using a cable between their own router and their laptop. I mean, that's something you can have control over if you can get your computer close enough to the router to actually use a cabled connection, particularly for video calls. That can help a lot. But as John says, there are so many variables other than the ones that you have control over that it's sometimes very hard to see what the problem is.
Yeah. So anyway, if anybody knows how to solve internet connectivity, well, we ought to have Chris Condor on because she has solved all the issues about internet.
So what is the answer to? Oh yes, fibre.
Yes, fibre is the answer. Well, fibre is the answer, but we can't all have it. Okay, so we've got 5 minutes left, and we've sort of exhausted the topics that we had planned. But there are a couple of things I'd want to sort of fit in if we can. But also, Pauline, you wanted to talk about. After all these years of using technology, you found out how to make a screenshot on your phone, and so.
Yeah, it's something that's it's been very handy to me more recently. You know what it's like, you discover something or rediscover something, and you suddenly think, how have I managed without that all these years? Well, I don't know how long it's been on. Swain had a story of how when he discovered it, so we can hear that in a minute. But it's about how to take a screenshot on your smartphone. So you got something up on your phone, and you either, for example, a tweet, and you don't want to amplify the voice of the tweet because it's bad in some way, but you want to take a screenshot so you can have it for future use. So it's about you press the power button on one side, and on my Samsung it's a power button on one side and a voice volume decrease volume on the other side, and you press them together, and you wait for the click, and the I'll show, if I hold it up, I'll try and show it a live demo to show that the screen actually changes. You see, it changes in size, so you know that if you haven't got the sound, you know that the picture's actually been taken. So it's helpful to know that. So that might be helpful to some of our listeners in on YouTube or on the Hope Radio in South Birmingham. Swain, what was your story about finding this out?
Oh, I wanted to show the progress of a ship that I was on. I was on a sailing ship as a trainee, and there's an app that shows you the position of any ship you want to find. And I wanted to show the progress as we went from Orkney to Aberdeen on the map. And a friend who was also a trainee on the same voyage said, "Do this," and it was just, as you say, it's one of these really simple but really, really useful things to know how to do, which I just never even thought of before that. So yeah, screenshots are amazingly useful in all sorts of ways.
Yes, and you can also so I don't know if this is possible on other kind of phones, but on the iPhone you can do video. So you can record the screen of what's happening on your phone, which I should have set this. There's a way of setting up Zoom so it will show the screen of your phone, but I haven't set it up previously, so I can't do that. But I can do it to the camera, I think, because I've got this virtual background up again.
This is going to be fun.
But so is it there? What I need to do is put it in front of my shirt, don't I? And it doesn't. But so if you pull on the iPhone, there's a menu if you can pull down. And there, and then there's a, where is it? There it is. It's at the bottom there. So it's a record button, and it will record what's on your screen.
Oh yeah,
it's gone away. But anyway, so if you've got an iPhone, you can do that. I imagine Android and other phones have a similar way of doing things, but I don't know what it is. And because we're running out of time, I just really quickly wanted to show something which I've not told either of you two about. But I really want to show this because I think I discovered this on Friday or Saturday, I think it was, is that Google have just released something called Live Transcribe, and there was a paramedic showed this is a way to get people who need to lip read when you're wearing a mask, and so I'm just going to try and show you this. I'll just show you a little bit of this video that he recorded, which I think is absolutely brilliant.
Hello, I'd like to take a few seconds of your time to say that some of our patients and service users rely on lip reading to communicate, and wearing a mask makes lip reading almost impossible. I've found that using this app called Google Live.
I just think that's absolutely brilliant. And I think the app only came out last week, and I think it's now available for iPhone as well. It's called Google Live Transcribe, and I think it's an absolute game changer. And the other thing I want to say very, very quickly again is I came across something the other day, which is where are we? It's called Google Tour Builder, and let's try and bring this up. And basically, I think it uses Google Maps and Google Earth and Street View and all those kind of things to actually create a tour. So if you want to create a virtual tour around your neighborhood or those kind of things, I only discovered this last week because I was actually in a community meeting and somebody told it they were using it to take people on virtual walks around the neighborhood. So something else I think which is really excellent. I've not actually used it myself yet, but I think it's I think it does work on VR headsets as well. We were talking about before, so you could use it in that scenario with the care homes we were talking about at the beginning. So I think that both of those are two wonderful things which we might go into in more depth on a future episode, because we've got more time to talk about them.
Right,
so
subscribers had 10 million plus downloads already, so, and including my one. So
brilliant. So that's more or less it, unless you've got anything else you want to whoops, sorry, I'm going prematurely with the outro music, but unless you've got anything else you want to talk about before we leave.
No,
Oh,
that's it for this
great.
week, I think,
Thanks
John.
very much, John. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for watching.
Thanks, Wayne.
And we'll see you next week.